Get on the train before it leaves the station. The truth train is coming, gonna run them down, run them down.
Hello there, folks. How you doing? Okay, a couple things to talk about today. It's going to be kind of a short one, just kind of delivering some news here. First thing, tomorrow is Wrongful Conviction Day, October 2nd, Wrongful Conviction Day. So be looking for all kinds of content tomorrow on all the various platforms of social media to do with wrongful convictions, maybe possibly some new cases you haven't heard of that you're going to find out about maybe. Lots of cool stuff. Wrongful Conviction Day is a beautiful thing, so check it out. And what also is happening tomorrow for Wrongful Conviction today is I want you guys to go over and check out Fenn's 80 More Things podcast. She's going to be having another episode tomorrow for Wrongful Conviction Day. Yours truly is going to be the guest. So for those of you who are interested, go check that out. Fenn is pretty brilliant. I love what she's doing over there. Really, I think she's going to have some really, really good and interesting content for you folks moving forward. So please go over and check that out. Wrongful Conviction Day, 80 More Things podcast. Everybody be looking tomorrow because there's going to be a lot of stuff going on for Wrongful Conviction Day. Okay, the next thing I'm going to talk about, I'm going to show you. I just saw a tweet from Jerry Buting where he talked about Len Kachinsky. So I tend to take what Jerry says pretty seriously. So here is what Jerry says is the results of Len Kachinsky's conviction, 6-month sentence. Okay, so here's a tweet from Jerry Buting, to just, you guys saw the video I did last night about Len Kachinsky where the judge had stayed the sentence. So here's Jerome Buting after getting the straight, information on this. Headlines that Kachinsky got a 6 months jail 6 months in jail on his conviction yesterday for violating a restraining order were misleading. He'll only serve 5 days, and he's been appointed to 50 cases in 2019 by public defender. So he's already being appointed to cases as a public defender after being sentenced to 6 months in jail for harassing or for violating a restraining order. I mean, it's just unconscionable that this guy, number one, got off scot-free for all the stalking. I mean, he made this clerk's life a living hell for months, and then he gets off on the stalking charges. Then he finally gets, convicted because he just was so craven, he was so sick in his head that he couldn't stop contacting her, even though there was a restraining order, and he ended up violating the restraining order. Now, there were 3 alleged incidents. I'm sure all 3 were violations, but one of them he got convicted for. He got convicted on one of those, and he's basically going to do 5 days, and they're already lining up public defender cases for him. That's justice in Wisconsin for you. So there you go, more proof that the law only counts in Wisconsin if you're poor. Then the law gets enforced and justice matters. But if you have some pull and you have some power and you've got some of the right friends, well, then justice is what you see Len Kachinsky getting now, which is not justice. It's, I don't know what it is, but it ain't justice. So, all right, moving to the final topic here, talking about Shawn Rech. Now, some of you may know he was interviewed by Chris Hansen. Linda Kay put it up on her channel. You guys can go over there and check it out, the entire interview. It's interesting. So, now, I gotta say this at first. I don't like Chris Hansen. I think that guy's a freaking idiot, personally, because so far, the last 3 or 4 things I've watched with that guy, he has clearly not done his research. And, well, he makes one comment in this interview with Shawn Rech that pretty much puts the finest point on it, okay? He, at one point during this interview with Shawn Rech, Chris Hansen actually says these words: "I got the impression Ken Kratz was a straight shooter." Straight shooter? Chris? You know what that tells me, Chris? That tells me you do not do the research. You do not fact check. You do not fact check the stuff that Kratz says. Okay? You don't. That's the only way you can make a statement like that, because Kratz is not a straight shooter. Kratz is a manipulator. That's what Kratz does. So, yeah, I'm sorry for those folks that like Chris Hansen. I don't. So far, the last 3 or 4 things I've seen with him, he has not done his homework. He's just a talking head. And he doesn't know what he's talking about, in my opinion. So, now, to get on to this whole Shawn Rech interview thing, there's a few things I want to say. Number one, obviously Shawn Rech is trying to say that he's doing this from an unbiased point of view. That he's trying to... That this is like journalism in a documentary, and that's the way it should be done, and he's claiming that the MAM didn't do it that way, basically saying a bunch of things that show he has a bias. And my concern with that bias is that he's trying to claim he's making an unbiased film, but he's clearly displaying hints of bias. Okay, so some of the things he's very intent on trying to point out that the filmmakers did some tricky editing, and he wants to point all those things out. And it's like, when you hear him talk, all he wants to do is attack MAM, but yet he wants to keep talking about how he wants to be unbiased. So it's very interesting. It's going to be very interesting to see Convicting a Murderer and to see what it really is. Because, it's to me, it seems like they're very much they have picked, that Shawn Rech has chosen a side in a lot of ways. It seems that way. But then again, he does, give a nod to Zellner. And he says, hey, look, she's good at what she does. She's walked many men out of prison who were wrongfully there. And she may walk Stephen out. And then he adds that, but he doesn't think it will be because of this confession. And I agree with him on that. I agree. I don't think this confession from Joseph Evans is going to help Zellner get Stephen out. So I think that's a fair assessment. But he does say she may get him out, but he just doesn't, or there's a good chance she may get him out. But basically, he doesn't think it's going to be because of that confession from Joseph Evans. Like I said, I agree. That confession from Joseph Evans isn't going to help anything. Isn't going to do anything. Joseph has completely shot out his credibility. First it was, Stephen was confessing to him. Now it's he did it and he was framing Stephen and all these things. His story is not. It just doesn't. It's his story has issues and it just doesn't work. So it has that problem. So, anyways. So yeah, I agree with Shawn Rech on that. Yeah, Zellner's not going to be using this confession from Joseph Evans. So, right? Okay. So, the other thing I want to point out about this interview that I heard Shawn Rech talking about that concerns me, and that is he plans to show all the people making threats, death threats, insane threats against the Colburns, the Kratzes, all those agents. He's planning to show that, folks. It's not a good thing. I really, really cannot put enough emphasis on this. We really, as supporters, all of us, need to not be engaging in that sort of behavior. No death threats, no threats, no none of that. If you're going to come after these people, come after them with the facts. I'm not very eager to see that part of Convicting a Murderer, because it is going to be embarrassing. It's going to be embarrassing. And I hope it's going to be a teaching moment for a lot of supporters when they see that. I really do hope it's going to be a teaching moment. This is why we conduct ourselves with class. This is why. So that guys like Shawn Rech can't go and do exactly what he's going to do. I hope everybody understands that. I've seen this coming for a long time, and I've been trying to warn and trying to let people know that, to keep it classy. But this is going to be an embarrassing part of Shawn Rech's documentary, where he is going to show some of the nasty and vile things that supporters have said into some of these agents of the state. Now, I get it. A lot of you think these agents of the state deserve it, but it doesn't make us look very credible when we have people out there acting like that. and calling themselves supporters, because it takes away from our credibility. Those of us who are, not honorable and don't engage in that sort of behavior, it takes away from our credibility. So I want to encourage everybody out there. I know how tempting it can be to want to fire off nasty things at these agents after you watch Making a Murderer and after you start learning more. I know it's tempting, but try to resist, because it really doesn't do any good. And then it gives people like Shawn Rech something to point to. And like I said, I'm not looking forward to that part of convicting a murderer. It's going to be quite an embarrassment. So, all right. Other than that, this is going to be interesting. Shawn Rech didn't even know what was on this death certificate, which I don't know that I necessarily hold that against him. He's got a lot of fact checkers on his team. I know what it's like. I mean, the whole time we've been working on this case, there's been a whole community and crew, and community of people together that have been looking into this, and we often have to ask each other, about certain things, because we know certain people focus on certain parts of the documents, and so when we know we need something from that certain area, we go to that person because we know that person knows that part of the documents really well. I imagine Shawn Rech has the same thing going within his little, film crew, where certain fact checkers focus on certain areas, and he maybe just has never seen the death certificate, but I guarantee you he's going and he's looking at it now. I can guarantee you, after that interview, he was making sure that he got to take a look at what was on that death certificate, because he probably imagines, as he does more and more interviews in the next month or two or whatever, he says it's going to be released in March, he says it's going to be finished in March. He anticipates it'll find a home by May, and he thinks that whatever service picks it up, or whatever company like Stars or whoever, he thinks they will wait till summer to release it. So that's kind of what he's thinking is going to happen with it. It's going to be, it's like I said, he may not have seen this death certificate, but I guarantee you he's going to be looking at it now after that interview, because he even felt a little embarrassed that he hadn't seen it, and he actually even offers an excuse during the interview. So for those of you who haven't checked it out, I will leave a link to the Shawn Rech interview down below. For those of you who haven't seen it, if you want to go check it out, I'll leave a link to it on Linda's channel here. And like I said, moving forward, there's those of us who have been studying this case and know quite a bit about it. We are going to be trying to educate Shawn Rech. We're going to try to send him the things that we know. Obviously, the things where we can prove Kratz lied and has lied and will lie. Things like that. We will do our best to get some information in front of him so that he, has all the facts, because it does seem he might have some slight blinders on when it comes to the state. It does seem that way. I'm sorry. No offense, Shawn Rech, but it does seem like you might have some slight blinders on. I agree you are. I see an aspect there that you are really trying to look at this even-handedly. I do see that, but unfortunately I do also see that you have a slight blinders to the state. So that it'll be interesting to see what this is about. I saw what Mark and Paul were saying. I get what Mark was saying, that he's lost a lot of faith, or he lost a lot of respect for Shawn Rech, and he really thought this was going to be something that was going to be more unbiased. But Mark, after listening to Shawn Rech talk, is now of the opinion that Shawn Rech is just doing a piece to counter MAM, and it's not about being in the middle. It's about countering. And so Mark was very disappointed by that. I think it's still going to be, I still have hopes for it to be fairly even-handed, but like I say, there's a lot of stuff out there that he's going to be able to put in this thing. And like I said, the threats and that sort of stuff, that's going to be in there. That's why we need to think about how we conduct ourselves and how we are perceived as supporters. And we need to think about the things we do, because we don't want the state to be able to use things like this, to try to discredit us as supporters. Now, granted, I do not support that. I do not support that kind of behavior. I have denounced that kind of behavior here on my channel multiple times. But I still feel like it should be said again. For those who may not understand how it damages us, this is how. Shawn Rech is going to show us how this type of behavior damages us. I'd prefer it wasn't coming this way, but this is how it's happening. And hopefully everybody that sees that part will understand the damage that we do by attacking with vile and vitriol instead of coming at these people with the facts. I cannot say it enough. I cannot stress it enough. You know, it's going to be embarrassing to see that part of Shawn Rech's, documentary. So, other than that, I think, Shawn Rech may surprise you, possibly. He may also not surprise you. He may just be serving the state here. We're gonna have to see. We'll wait and see what's coming here. But I get the impression he actually tries to be pretty fair and even-handed. Now, having said that, I do believe he has some blinders on when it comes to the state. Now, all right. So that's about all I have to say about this one. Everybody remember Wrongful Conviction Day tomorrow. Go check out Fenn's podcast. Len Kachinsky is only going to do 5 days, and they're already lining him up as a public defender for 50 cases in 2019. Anyways, so this is the bizarre nature of things in Wisconsin, and yeah. So here I am, just calling attention to it. All right, guys, if you haven't already, please hit subscribe. We'll see you.